how did this become this? To understand how Rome grew from a tiny town into a European power, we must go back to the 8th century BC. The story begins in Alba Longa, where King Numitor was deposed by his younger brother. This new ruler, fearing any future rivals to the throne, eventually turned his attention to Numitor's daughter, Rhea Silvia. When she gave birth to twin sons, Romulus and Remus, allegedly the sons of Mars, the god of war, the king attempted to have the boys murdered by drowning them in the Tiber River. Somehow, the infants survived, washing ashore near Palatine Hill, where they were suckled by a she-wolf and later raised by a local shepherd, Faustulus. Upon discovering their true lineage, the twins launched an attack, assassinating their great-uncle and restoring their grandfather, Numitor, to the throne. They decided to found their own city, at the site where they had been saved. But a dispute ended with Romulus murdering his brother, leaving Romulus as the sole founder of the city of Rome. To populate his new town, he invited exiles and fugitives to seek asylum. However, this resulted in a society composed almost entirely of men, leaving the new city with no hope for a future generation. Desperate to secure the city's survival, he orchestrated a plan, the abduction of the Sabine women. During a grand festival, the Romans seized the young women of the Sabine tribe, leading to an immediate conflict. But as war broke out, the abducted women intervened to mediate. Their insistence on peace led to a treaty that merged the two kingdoms into one power. Romulus began a period of joint rule with the Sabine king, Titus Tatius. However, following the death of Tatius some years later, Romulus once again became the sole ruler of the growing city. Romulus ruled for 37 years, but his reign was only the beginning. Over the next 2 centuries, 6 more kings would shape the early Roman state. Numa Pompilius. He established Rome's religious foundations and the solar calendar. Tullus Hostilius. He focused on military expansion, famously destroying the rival city of Alba Longa. Ancus Marcius. He built the first bridge over the Tiber and founded the strategic port of Ostia, situated exactly where the river flows into the Tyrrhenian Sea. Tarquinius Priscus. He came from the Etruscan civilization and started the construction of the Great Sewer and the Circus Maximus. Servius Tullius. He organized the first census, counting around 80,000 citizens, and divided them into classes based on wealth. The era of kings ended with Tarquinius Superbus, a tyrant whose reign was marked by despotism. In 509 BC, after his son's crime against the noblewoman Lucretia, the Senate and the military revolted. The monarchy was abolished, and the Roman Republic was born, with power transferred to 2 elected consuls, Lucius Junius Brutus and Lucius Tarquinius Collatinus. However, the young republic was immediately tested. The deposed king fled to his fellow Etruscans, convincing King Lars Porsena to march on Rome, in an attempt to restore the monarchy by force. Ultimately, the Romans successfully defended their city, and the last king was permanently exiled, never to wear the crown again. The Republic slowly gained its position. In 493 BC, Rome secured its flank by signing the Fiadus Cassianum, an alliance with the Latins to fight off the Volsci and Sabines. Inside the city, social pressure and the need for internal stability led to the creation of the Law of the 12 Tables in 449 BC, establishing a clear legal code that bound patricians and plebeians together. The first major expansion occurred in 396 BC, when Rome finally captured the Etruscan rival city of Veii. The city was destroyed, its people enslaved, and its massive territory became available for Roman use. But this triumph was met with disaster. In 390 BC, the Gallic Senones, led by Brennus, sacked Rome itself. After the Gauls retreated, Rome made a radical decision that changed history. Overriding patrician resistance, they distributed the captured land from Veii in a purely egalitarian way, giving plots to every male Roman, including their sons. In an instant, every citizen became a landowner, obligated to perform military service. When the generation of men who were boys during the Gallic sack grew up, Rome's military potential was, suddenly and incomparably greater than any neighbor. In 354 BC, Rome re-established its alliance with the Latins as their dominant master. When Capua begged for protection in 343 BC, it sparked the First Samnite War. This led to the Latin War, where Rome crushed its former allies and permanently dissolved the Latin League. The Samnites remained the fiercest rivals. During the Second Samnite War, Rome suffered a humiliating defeat at the Caudine Forks in 321 BC. However, Rome managed to endure and eventually cut the Samnites off from the sea. In the Third Samnite War, a massive anti-Roman coalition was crushed at the Battle of Sentinum in 295 BC. By 283 BC, Rome almost entirely exterminated the Senones and subdued the Etruscans. The final challenge came from Tarentum, which called upon King Pyrrhus of Epirus. Pyrrhus won tactical battles, but his path was blocked by a sudden alliance between Rome and Carthage. Realizing he couldn't win a war against both powers, Pyrrhus eventually retreated from Italy in 275 BC. In 272 BC, Tarentum fell to the Romans. With the fall of the Etruscan city Volsinii in 264 BC, Rome became the undisputed ruler of Italia. But the most serious threat was yet to come. The conflict between two powers began not with the ambitions of great kings, but through the desperate maneuvers of a mercenary group known as the Mamertines, who had occupied the Sicilian city of Messana since 288 BC. In 265 BC, feeling threatened by the power of Syracuse, they first appealed to Carthage, which promptly installed a garrison to protect them. However, the mercenaries soon grew uncomfortable with their protectors and secretly invited Rome to intervene and replace the Carthaginian presence. Despite a fierce debate in the Senate over the questionable character of the Mamertines, Rome decided to seize the opportunity, sending Appius Claudius Caudex in 264 BC and officially beginning the First Punic War. This Roman arrival forced Carthage into an unlikely alliance with Hero II of Syracuse, but relentless Roman pressure eventually flipped the Syracusan king into Rome's most vital long-term ally. But Rome faced a wall. Carthage was a maritime empire with centuries of experience, while Rome had no navy. In a stroke of luck, the Romans captured a shipwrecked Carthaginian warship and used it as a blueprint. The Romans built a fleet of over 100 ships. Knowing they couldn't outsail the experts, they invented the corvus, a spiked boarding bridge. This allowed Roman legionaries to turn naval warfare into land battles, effectively swarming enemy decks. The war became a brutal test of endurance. In 255 BC, the Roman general Marcus Regulus took the fight to Africa. But the Carthaginians hired a Spartan mercenary named Xanthippus, who utterly routed the Romans. Regulus himself was captured and taken prisoner. Disaster continued as a massive storm at sea wrecked the Roman fleet on the journey home. For years, the conflict ground on in Sicily. The Carthaginian commander, Hamilcar Barca led a brilliant naval campaign, but Carthage was running out of money. In 242 BC, Rome launched its final effort. Gaius Lutatius Catulus led a new 200-ship fleet to Sicily. The Battle of the Aigats Islands in 241 BC was the killing blow. With this victory, Rome had finally conquered Sicily. Carthage was forced to sign the Treaty of Lutatius, withdrawing from the island and paying a massive 3,200 talents. The peace was short-lived and bitter. While Carthage was already weakened, Rome took advantage, seizing Sardinia and Corsica. This move was never forgotten. Hamilcar Barca raised his young son, Hannibal, with a burning hatred for the Republic. Rome had just won the first round, but they had ensured that the next war would be one of total annihilation. In the next episode, we will look at Hannibal Barca's legendary march across the Alps and follow the ongoing history of Rome itself. We'll see how the Republic adapted to unprecedented challenges, how its military machine evolved, and how the Romans, despite being pushed to the very brink, stubbornly pursued total dominance over the ancient world. Thanks for watching. I hope you all have a wonderful day today.